Whatever you have to do, however long it takes, promise me you'll find your way home. Furiosa, give me this promise.
Good morning, Vietnam!
Greetings and salutations.
Oh, hi, Mark.
All right, I ran out of patience.
It's showtime.
Hello and welcome back to Retrospect. My name is Matt, and as always, I am joined by Brady. Brady, how are you?
I'm doing good, man. How you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm interested to talk about this one. I have thoughts. I don't think it's a bad movie, but it's interesting talking about this after our last podcast because I think we see some of the things we wanted to see in it, and I also don't know how I feel about those things after seeing it. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, I'm anxious to talk about this one. But first and foremost, you know my thoughts kind of already. What were your thoughts?
I very much like this movie. Like a whole lot.
Okay. I'm jealous. Because I don't have strong feelings either way. I just wish I liked this movie more than I do. And I don't, again, there's nothing inherently that I can point at and be like, this is what I dislike about it. And in fact, I came out of the theater and I'm like, I don't know what is it about it that I just don't like. That's just not vibing with me. That is just misplaced or just not there. Or I couldn't figure it out. And I have what I think now is an idea of the problem. And I'm sure as we progress, I can get to it and talk about it in more detail because I don't want to give it away right away. But my overall thoughts of this movie is this a really good 3 out of 5. It's not bad. I'm more disappointed than I am the movie is not a good movie than anything, I think. I don't know what I expected this movie to be. I just don't know that I completely loved what I got either.
Yeah, I know. Whenever I heard this movie was happening, I really didn't have any high expectations of it or anything, just because I wasn't as into Fury Road as everyone else was.
Sure.
And then I think I mentioned it last week, like I heard the complaints about it were things that I wanted out of Fury Road that people were upset that this movie focused on. I guess it's all about story this time around.
See, that's interesting to me. That's interesting to me. Because I don't know. You say story, I say story that was kind of already there. And so it doesn't feel like there's anything additional to Fury Road, in my opinion. Aside from seeing an additional 2.5 hours, 5 minutes before the movie, Fury Road. I say that as, again, I want to be clear, explicitly, abundantly clear. This movie's not bad. It just feels extremely unnecessary, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's more to this story, and I will get to it, I promise. But to me, the story that is here, and it's definitely, there's way more story here than there is in Fury Road. It just doesn't, I feel like all of those things are already in Fury Road, just very much more nuanced, I guess. I don't know. Maybe I'm insane.
Yeah.
But
no.
The title character in this movie is a better character in the other movie, in my opinion.
Really?
Yes.
Okay. I think probably a lot of that problem is just because that's just the thing about prequels.
Sure.
There's no, this movie definitely wasn't necessary by any means. It wasn't like Fury Road, called for this movie. This movie needed to happen to explain things. It's a nice companion piece to it.
I mean, it's Rogue One. I mean, it for sure is Rogue One. I think I didn't expect it to be Rogue One. I think might be the problem, and a part of the problem. There's a massive thing that I haven't mentioned here that's 100% my problem with this movie. I just think when you go into this movie, it's one really difficult to follow up that movie specifically because, like you said, like it's so well received. Like it's. I said last week, probably top 5 action films of all time. I still think that. I just don't know that. It's just difficult to follow it up. And then you add on top of that the thing that made that movie really good. We also mentioned this last week was Furiosa. And unfortunately for Anya Taylor-Joy, which I don't think she's bad in this movie. I think she's really good, in fact. Like, the thing that she has to do is overcome that, like, expectation of what Charlize Theron set. And I mean, I think she's believable for sure as Furiosa. I just don't know that. Again, I can tell you for certain I was not interested in this Furiosa versus the other.
Okay.
I know
I'm like the other way around.
I know that sounds crazy, dude. I know I'm in the vast minority here, and I'm still very conflicted with like all of my feelings. But the thing for me that is completely noticeable is this is more Monkey Man than it is Mad Max.
Okay.
It's a fable. It's not Mad Max.
Well,
it's more mythological.
It's not Mad Max Fury Road. That's very Mad Max.
Okay, that's fair. That's 100% fair. I haven't seen the others. And I almost watched them before this pod. But I was like, I don't know if I should do it because like I very much know now after sitting on it for a couple of days what my problem was. But like, I think it's very similar to Monkey Man in the fact that it's just a revenge film that's not paper thin, but like it's more of an odyssey than it is an action film. And I wasn't expecting that, right? Like and not that I was expecting like Mad Max Fury Road. Like we talked about last week, like we wanted more depth there. And I think that is inherently here. But after watching this movie, the thing that's really noticeable to me is I think this is a better movie if it's not named Furiosa, a Mad Max Saga. I think it's a better movie if it's a separate movie. Like a different thing. An independent thing.
Okay. I mean, I don't know. Like I personally, like I just feel like I mentioned last week, like with Fury Road, I've given that movie like 5 or 6 shots to just like try and understand why like the love it gets and everything. And like I like the movie, but just but then this one, immediately when it ended, I was like, I want to watch Fury Road now. A movie that I don't even love or like that much.
That's interesting.
Like,
I left this movie thinking, because the end credits of this movie is just clips from that movie.
That was weird.
And I was like, you know, it's not helping that you're comparing it to its previous self, in my opinion. That was my last reaction of the movie. So hearing that's kind of crazy.
Mm-hmm. It's so, dude. I had so much more fun with this movie than I have ever had with Fury Road.
No, like I said, I know that I'm in the vast minority here, and I'm entirely jealous. And I don't think this movie's bad. I cannot overstate that enough. I just think it's not at all what I, in my mind, Mad Max was.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I get it. Fury Road is just like its own animal. Like it's and I think it's so weird like seeing this reversal, like because I'm having like the reaction, like we're having like the opposite reactions.
Sure.
Like last week you were like, this is all, like this is great, and like I was like, this isn't, I didn't like it because it wasn't what I expected. And then you're going into this one, you're like, I don't like it because it wasn't what I expected. And then this is what I expected out of Fury Road.
Yeah, what's interesting, I think, about that specifically is I think your issue with Fury Road is it wasn't Mad Max centered. to a extent. Like when I say that, I mean more like mythologically. Like it didn't have like the DNA of what a Mad Max film would be, right? Like it felt very loosely connected. That's what this felt like for me to Fury Road. Right? Does that make sense? And that's the reason I'm like, this is a far better movie if it's an independent movie.
Yeah. It's really interesting because I know he's talked about how he wrote both of these stories at the same time. Like these movies were supposed to film back to back. How do you not? It's so perfectly connected. Like it's like one giant story. In Fury Road's just the entire third act.
The tone, for one, like tonally, I don't think they fit together.
Really?
Yeah, 100%. Like the pacing, obviously, they don't fit together. Like there's a multitude of things. I mean, Dementis, and I love Dementis in this movie. I think Chris Hemsworth is easily the best thing about this movie. Does not fit in this movie.
Really?
I think what's weird about this conversation, and it's going to sound like I'm on something and I'm high, and I promise you I am very sober. I think that Chris Hemsworth Dementis is a great anthology, an exploration of like anthology inside of the Mad Max universe, but I don't feel like his character per se fits in this very serious version of a Mad Max film.
Very serious.
Yeah, I mean, I think
you're saying this movie is very serious
in comparison to Fury Road. Yes.
Really? They like pour pee in a radiator so that the engine doesn't overheat? Like,
dude, like, I know. Listen, I understand. I understand that I sound crazy, but I think this is way more self-serious than Fury Road was. And I don't think I'm inherently crazy, but because there's an element of Dementis that is very Thor Ragnarok, which I appreciated. I really do. I'm not the performance is excellent. Probably the best thing he's ever done. To me, it just does not fit in this movie. It's very noticeable.
I don't know. I don't know. I think it works really well. I think I understand what you're saying. Tonally, I'm trying to think. I don't know if I would exactly say serious, but it's like I
mean, again, one's comparable to Speed, the other one's comparable to Monkey Man. They don't.
Well, this is just very. It's much more. The last movie is just for lack of a better term, pedal to the metal, just
sure,
high octane action.
Sure.
And then this one is just it's just straight up an epic. That's what it is.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're proving my point though, right? The idea that one is way more fast, the tempo is like this, the other one is patient. And it's I don't want to say this movie's patient and hasn't no action to it. It says it's a character exploration. It's not that. It is that, but it's not that. That would be underplaying what this movie is for sure. But it's also not this, So I don't I could see how he makes Fury Road, or how maybe he has this idea as a movie, and then it's I can't make this movie. They're not going to allow me to make this movie, and then makes Fury Road. I don't see him writing them two together, right? I can't see it.
I mean, I do. I just, man, I really think it really is,
dude, I'm so pissed off. I really wanted to like this thing.
It's so confusing me, you saying this is serious.
I mean, I think it is, man.
I feel like this movie is less serious than Fury Road was.
Are we sure we watched the same movie?
Yes.
I'm puzzled
this one has
right
so
now.
much more humor in it too, just straight up. Just
but I think a lot of that humor comes from Dementis, and that's kind of what my point is.
Some of it, yeah, but
I don't know. Like, I think in my mind, Anya Taylor-Joy's Furiosa and Chris Hemsworth's Dementis are in separate movies. 1,000%.
They're in the same movie. Like, you watched it. It was. I'm just kidding.
And here's the thing. Like, I want to be clear again. Like, I think they're both giving good performances. One's even great. I just cannot, like, and I think part of the problem here too is that this movie's broken down into not acts but parts. I think part 1 is the best part of this movie by a large margin.
Okay.
That's the movie. When that first part happened, I was locked in. By the time we got to like Act 3, Act 5, Act 6, like I was gone. But
that was my favorite.
I think that and I love Anya Taylor-Joy, and I don't want anyone to listen to this podcast and think that I blame Anya Taylor-Joy for this, because I do not. I think this is a George Miller thing. And when I say that, I will explore that. It's not as bad as it sounds a little later, but this movie should have been about Furiosa's mom and how her kid was kidnapped. I know that sounds crazy, but that to me was the better movie, and I think that served Dementis' character a lot better too.
Man, you should just watch Kill Bill if you want to see that. I mean,
dude, I haven't watched that movie in years. I don't remember liking that movie, but maybe I do need to revisit that thing.
Bill.
I mean, this is basically just a revenge film. Like, I don't like.
Well, yeah,
very.
It's a great revenge film.
Point A to point Z. I don't know, man.
It takes its time. And the revenge is incredible when it happens, and it even higher elevates Fury Road. Like, it makes the stakes even higher in that for me.
This is going to sound so awful, and I beg and implore anyone listening to please just listen to the context of what I'm saying. There is no amount of makeup or prosthetics or CGI or anything that you're going to give me to convince me that at the end of that movie, at the end of that movie, when Anya Taylor-Joy's Furiosa is playing games with her food that is Dementis at that point, that's actually taking place. There is, I can't do it in my brain. I know that sounds crazy, but I cannot make that leap to that point. Like, I just can't do it. And I think, again, I like Anya Taylor-Joy, and I think her performance is fantastic. I just don't know that that's the right casting. And I think, again, following up Furiosa and Fury Road and trying to make this movie and make it work was a tall order. And I just think they missed.
No, I think she does really good, but I also am not sure that she was the right choice for this role. I will say that. Like, I think she handled it very well, but I don't. It's kind of hard, like, whenever we get to the end of this movie and it leads directly into Fury Road, like, there are a couple moments in this movie where, like, it just goes from one scene to the other, and you're just supposed to understand that a bunch of time has passed without them really showing or telling you. Like, one in particular, I'm sure we'll get into later, but just like the jump from, and whenever it shows you at the end that it is leading immediately into Fury Road, it's kind of like, it's a bit jarring.
Me and Brianna had an extensive conversation about this at the end of the movie. In the car ride home. That legitimately made me mad.
Really?
Yes. Because it's so incredibly noticeable. Like, you're flying too close to the sun, Icarus. Like, calm down. Like, it's so incredibly noticeable. Like, if anything, just have Anya Taylor-Joy go into that room where the wives are, use some CGI to buff her up a little bit and cut to black and let the rest lie. when you immediately compare it to the almost said predecessor. I guess it was predecessor technically, but also successor. It's weird. You get my point. Like it doesn't do itself any favors when it does that. And it's so incredibly jarring and takes you, or it took me immediately out. Like, and so like the way they also did the makeup, very much trying to make her look like Charlize Theron, very much took me out because the body build is completely different. And I don't want this to sound like I'm making this about body shaming or anything, but those things in the, like elements like this matter in these types of movies. Like take it however you want to take it. The context, like that matters contextually. And it just didn't work. And I love Anya Taylor-Joy. I think she's one of the best working actresses today. And I think she even like heck, like someone was trying to tell me in the YouTube comments that she did not watch Mad Max Fury Road. She did not talk to Charlize Theron. She did not study Furiosa as a character. I'm like, there's no way, man. Like she might be lying to you and lying to interviewers, but if you just watch the character, she nails the mannerisms. Yeah. Like she would have to have some point of reference.
The voice, like
yes.
There are some parts where her voice just sounds like Charlize Theron in Fury Road,
but just like anatomically and just like the body of it, it doesn't work. And that's not her fault. That's casting's fault. And also George Miller's fault. She does everything right, in my opinion, outside of that. And that's just out of her control. And it makes me feel bad. Like I'm almost gaslighting myself for feeling this way. And I could not buy into it. I just couldn't. Like she has the glares down. She, like you said, she had the voice down. That's another thing that really annoyed me, by the way. Let her talk. Let her talk. I know that it was built in. There was built-in moments where it made sense where she didn't. But even after that, she didn't oftentimes get to talk. And I understand the idea of it's a visual medium to communicate through visuals. I understand that. I am a film nerd. I've talked about this before. Show don't tell. Also, let your actors act. Like I don't know. Like that really bothered me. Because, like, very obviously, Chris Hemsworth got so much to work with.
Yeah.
And I think part of the disconnect for me between the two characters is she didn't really get to voice a lot of the things that I was feeling, and I know she was feeling in those moments, and I just wish they would have gave her things to do that way. Did you feel that?
I did. There was even, like, it's very blatant in one scene where after Dementis has chased her, and is his name Jack, Praetorian Jack? Is that it?
Yes.
Well, whenever he finally chases them down and gets them together, and he's like doing his big, like, basically like gassing all up his guys and stuff.
Sure.
And they have like a moment there where like she like turns to him, like brings him close to her, and like they have an interaction, but it's still focusing on what Hemsworth is doing. Like I was like, I want to know what's going on over here.
Yes.
It was really weird. That was a really weird moment to me.
Like I would almost prefer this to have been a 3 to 4 hour film. Because I just felt like it did a lot of disservices to Anya Taylor-Joy's performance to give half the movie to the child actor, which I think also is fantastic, by the way. And the seamless between the two, like this, like they seamlessly transitioned between the two really well. But I think I would have preferred seeing 3.5, 4 hours of this movie as opposed to the very edited, cut down version of this movie.
It felt that way, didn't it? Sometimes.
Yes. It felt that way in a major way for me. That's part of the reason I'm like, I don't like this film does not, in my mind, feel like a prequel to Fury Road because it feels like a separate thing entirely. Like, in my mind, following my logic here, you know, back when 10 Cloverfield Lane came out, and I think it was a movie called The Bunker. That's what this feels like to me. And 10 Cloverfield Lane's fantastic. This is fantastic. I'm not saying it's not good, but it just feels like it's IP address. Like, it just feels like they attached IP to it. Like that's all it like. I just think it's a better thing if it's a separate thing. And maybe you're right. Maybe this is just Kill Bill, like 100%. But it's, to me, it was very noticeable. And I haven't watched Kill Bill in years. I don't remember liking that at all. And my only like point of reference for Mad Max was Fury Road. I don't know. I just have very complex feelings about this. I'm sorry. I apologize. I'm all over the place.
I feel like this is the first time we've really, in however many episodes we've done, where we just are on completely opposite ends.
Yeah, well, you know, you say opposite ends, but I hear what you're saying and I see it. But I also, like, it unfortunately just did not work for me. Like, I cannot sit here and objectively say this is not a well-made movie. I cannot sit here and objectively say Anya Taylor-Joy was not Furiosa. I cannot sit here and objectively say that Dementis did not work as a villain. I can't do that. Those things, all those marks were checked. I just think it's a better movie if it's not Mad Max. It's like the title is not Furiosa Mad Max Saga. I know that sounds crazy, and it's. I feel like anyone who's not like a film fan like us is not going to understand that connection. But to me, it just works better if it's freaking John Wick, like just a blank name, like something entirely different. I don't know, like it just feels like it was attached to IP. Like that's all I can say.
Man, for me, it just feels so Mad Max, and that's why I liked it so much.
Maybe I just need to watch the original Mad Maxes. Maybe that's my biggest problem.
I don't know. I'm not sure you'd like them. You should watch Road Warrior. This movie was like, it was so Road Warrior. Like, I loved it.
Well,
I mean, why I liked it so much.
I like the idiocy of the movie, right? I love the character study of the movie. I just don't think, in my mind, that served the Mad Max isms that Fury Road was. And again, it sounds like I'm a hypocrite because last week I was like, well, I need story. Like I like the action in it, but I needed some depth there. This is so to go from 2 hours of a chase scene to like a 2.5 hour half like character study epic half action movie, it was just tonally very inconsistent for me. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It's like the way that I view it now is like Fury Road is the payoff you get for this story.
No, yeah, that's fair.
Know?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, this one is like all the build up, and then that's basically like your final act is Fury Road.
This is almost like it should have been a trilogy. I think you should have had. I think you could have had followed Furiosa as a child and really because part of my problem with like this movie and the character of Furiosa in this movie is it relies so heavily on you knowing Charlize Theron's Furiosa. I would love to do a anonymous like interview to people who have actually not seen Mad Max and see if they understand anything about Furiosa and what she stands for and where she's at like intellectually and like sociopathically. Like I would love to hear like their thoughts on her brain after watching this movie, because in my mind you only get those things because you watch Charlize Theron bring her to life in Fury Road.
Okay.
Like a lot of that's borrowed, I think.
It's weird because I think so I think that you get her in this movie completely, but then
I'm gonna say something so reckless here in a moment.
But her like going back and doing the things she does in Fury Road sort of feels out of character for how she's left at the end of this.
Yes. So what I was going to say though, and I'll get back to what you're saying because I agree with you. I think Charlize Fraser's performance of her mom at the very beginning of this movie is more Charlize Theron than George Miller directing Anya Taylor-Joy to be Furiosa. And
Yeah.
I could not get past that.
Okay.
And that Charlie Fraser has maybe 15 minutes of screen time?
If even.
That's terrible. To know that she, in my mind, embodied so much more of that character in 15 minutes than George Miller having a blueprint template to create this character again with Anya Taylor-Joy, which is a fantastic actress who was doing great in this movie and missed the mark for me.
Mm-hmm.
I said that like the idea of following up both that movie and that character would be really difficult. He did it with Charlie Fraser, and I think, or Charlie Fraser. Good Lord, I cannot talk. I'm so passionate about this movie. That's the reason I think this movie should have been a part 1 and part 2, and then like, Fury Road, because I think if we would have got to see Furiosa interact with her mom and learn things like that, like make it. From what I understand, Road Warrior at this point is like. He's traveling down a road and fighting off people because of like an apocalypse thing and resources. That's a very general like idea, but that would be my no. Okay.
Just a normal day in Australia.
Basically,
what that sounds like to me.
Shout out, we have Australian friends out there, by the way. Shout out them. And I think if we would have seen that, like Furiosa grow up with her mom, like trying to find resources and surviving a post-apocalyptic world, I think that would have really leveled up like the depth of the Furiosa character. It would have really helped it in this way, like with this specific movie. I don't think it helps it when you compare it to Charlie Fraser in the 15 minutes beforehand and then Charlize Theron 5 minutes after this movie ends. Like that's my biggest problem with this movie.
Okay. I mean, you know, I feel like there's a lot of talk around the that opening part with the mom and everything. To me, like, yeah, it's good, but I don't know. Like after that's kind of the part that, like, that's kind of my least favorite part of the movie.
Oh my God. I didn't know you were this far apart.
Yeah.
Wow.
No, that's like all the stuff you were saying earlier. Like the first part's good, and then I don't like it when you get seen. Like I'm completely reverse of that.
Wow. Holy moly! Like this might end the podcast. That's crazy. Dude, like I don't want to just sound like I am absolutely dunking on this movie. I think it's good. I just don't understand the hype around it. I wish I did. This sounds so crazy because it sounds like we're just like you mentioned. It sounds like we're just doing the opposite of last week. There's not one point in this movie that I can like sit down and like objectively critique. I don't know how much of my complaints are just subjective expectations. But how much of that does that matter, right? Like, because at the end of the day, like I can confidently tell you, like I walked out of this movie and I was just disappointed. And it's not because I thought Fury Road was the greatest thing that's ever walked this earth. I mean, I feel like I'm somewhere in the middle between like those people and where you're at. To me, like it wasn't able to like tonally fit in. Like this feels like the difference in like Boba Fett series and like Empire Strikes Back. Like it's so tonally different. And that, yeah, like it's not remotely similar. Outside of like the teal and orange and like just the visual style of it all, it's not similar in my mind.
Man, it just all feels like one big story to me.
I'm gonna have to watch this thing again because I feel like I just watched a different movie.
Now, I will say some of the effects had me thinking of like the Hobbit movies, though.
I said in my review on YouTube, I was like, there's a moment in this movie, it feels like they just put together a movie in a post Harry Potter world. But when you think about that for a second, Fury Road came out in a post Harry Potter world.
Yeah.
They, like
right.
the whole thing, like, dude, like, why do we have to like impose like I almost said genetically. Why do we have to like computer generate like and impose like images of a town? Like, why can't we just like put something together and utilize our production sets? Like the whole, like, I think it's the gasoline place or the bullet place where it's like lit up at night and it's got like, you know which one I'm talking about? It's in the trailer. It looks so bad. It looks so incredibly computer generated.
Mm-hmm.
Like, why are we doing that?
Yeah. Now this is something that the last one gets praised so much for doing so much practical. Like, I don't think this movie had more like CG than Fury Road. It's just that Fury Road was just shelved for so long, and they worked on the VFX for so long on that movie that it ended up looking as well as it did. This one just didn't have as long. Like, it used basically all the same techniques that Fury Road was doing.
I would be curious to see these back to back, or at least frames, because I don't know that I agree with that either. I think this is way more saturated. It's got more in common with like the Fall Guy than it does Mad Max. I know that sounds crazy. Like, I obviously I think it's very noticeably practical at times. Like, I'm not denying that, but I think it has more in common with like the Fall Guy than it does Fury Road. I think some of the CGI in here looks really bad.
Mm-hmm.
Like really, really, really bad. Like one of the biggest set pieces in the movie, which I built, it's one of these towns, dude. I can't even tell you because it's 2 hours and 30 minutes long, and I wasn't able to interact with it on that same level, I guess. But there's one of these towns where like they hint her and the Tom Burke character Jack like are going to ambush them. They're being ambushed while they're ambushing. And it's like silos around them, and like it's when she's sniping at Dementis.
Oh, in Bullet Town.
Yeah, okay, so it's Bullet Town.
Dude, that was awesome.
I think it's like the idea of it's awesome for sure, and I think some of it looks okay, but also it looks really bad. Like, I don't know. Like, I should have known it was Bullet Town because of the CGI shells falling on Chris Hemsworth's face.
Yeah, but that's a nice hint.
You're not one of them poked his eye out. Not one of them chipped a tooth or anything.
No. These movies are not known for their subtlety or nuance whatsoever.
Man, I'm so mad. I wanted to like this so much. And the worst part is I can see it's a good movie. Like, the blueprint is good. I just didn't like it. I'm just disappointed.
Dude, I really like this movie. There's only, like, it's my second favorite movie of the year so far.
Really?
That's how much I like it.
Holy crap. I think it's like my number 8 or number 9.
Mm-hmm.
I had it as low as 11 or 12 and I felt bad. I had it behind Love Lies Bleeding. And I like that movie a lot, by the way. So let's focus up here. So like talk me through what made this movie really work. Were you expecting it to be what it was? And like let's just talk about like the expectations versus the reality of what you got.
I mean, like, first of all, I had no idea we were going to spend so much time with like young Furiosa and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I think because of just kind of the almost like breakneck pace of the last one, I thought it was going to kind of fly through stuff. So I was like pleasantly surprised for it to really just take its time with everything. And there's tons of this thing called character development that works pretty good for movies. And like I don't know, I just really liked it. I liked how it expanded on some of the stuff in the last movie. Not that there's like a lot like these massive intricacies for you to expand on. It was just interesting to see some of the stuff. Like, there's a certain character in here that was a better Mad Max than Tom Hardy was.
Is it Tom Burke?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, I could see that.
He was. I really like that character a lot. Like, a lot.
I had never heard of Tom Burke before, but he was really good in
Me
this.
neither.
Like, here's my thing. You say Mad Max. I think he's a better. Also, I think he's also a better Furiosa than Anya Taylor-Joy is. But I agree with you, by the way.
Dude, like,
let me caveat what I just said. Actually, I'm so sorry. So we said, I mean, it makes sense, right? Like we said last movie that Furiosa was a better Mad Max than Mad Max was. So it only makes sense in my brain. Like if I don't particularly, you see what I'm saying?
Yeah. But dude, just like the minute he shows up,
yeah,
and then everything about his character, he's just straight up Mad Max. Like if this would have happened, if this movie would have come out and Fury Road hadn't come out,
sure. I like this movie a lot more, by the way.
This character probably would have just been Max. I feel like.
No, so this is a weird conversation. I didn't expect it to go here. If Fury Road does not exist, I love this movie.
Yeah.
I'm dead serious. Because, like, again, my point of reference is that movie. And again, I've already, like, it is a good movie. Like, I can't objectively say it's not. But the funny thing about this is, like, it has the same, a lot of the same story beats. Like, I've referenced this earlier, like, it doesn't do anything particularly different than Fury Road already does. Especially with the characters, in my mind. Like, they're all relatively in the same area, aside from Dementis, who was just not there for obvious reasons. Yeah, like, this movie is so much better if that movie does not exist. And I think that proves my point in my mind that, like, if this is not a Mad Max movie, it's a better movie. Like, my line of thought, at least.
Yeah. I mean, I guess so. It's so weird because, like, this is just a Mad Max movie. Like, I don't know.
Dude, like, maybe I'm the biggest Mad Max fan and I'm just gaslighting myself this entire time.
But, man, and I just loved, like I said, just how it expanded things. Like, everything at the Citadel, seemed like in Fury Road, I could not care less about Immortan Joe. Like, he's such a nothing villain. And, I
have questions too.
I think, and a big thing about this series that I like so much about this series is, like, the villains are super memorable and they're usually, like, these super wild, crazy, out there characters. And this movie's got, like, 4 of them.
I'm glad you brought up Immortan Joe. Because I think there is some validity in what you're saying. Like, they certainly give you a little bit fly on the wall in the Citadel here, a lot more than they did in Fury Road. And I did appreciate that. One thing that I could not help but notice, and I don't know if you noticed this, I don't see how you wouldn't, is the moment his new perfect wife disappears, he doesn't have a problem with it.
Oh, yeah. There's a lot of convenient, like, she just escapes and nobody notices. Kind of happens a couple of times in this movie.
No one's asking questions like, oh, this guy who was a mechanic just turned into a girl. Like, yeah.
Yeah.
How?
That was a
how
little
sway. Like, I don't. She just conveniently had the map back to the green place on her arm. Unfortunately, I should say inconveniently, that's the arm she loses. Like, I don't know.
And then she escapes out of that, surrounded by a ton of people, and somehow cuts her arm off and rigs up this thing to take an entire wheel off of it, and nobody notices.
No one knows. Like, one of the best parts of the movie is the stowaway part, right? Like,
yeah.
But no one noticed she's a stowaway on a moving vehicle when she's just taking on the bottom. Like, what? Come on, what are we doing? Like, I just we got to do better. Like, I mean, the worst part about this is that Fury Road had a stowaway place where the wives were stowed away. It's already in universe. Like, why can't, like, like, she's just taking on the side of the vehicle for how many hundreds of miles until they finally have a fight? Like, I don't get it. And then when she's finally revealed, she's like, "Oh, she helped me for like more than 5 minutes. I guess I will let her sit in my vehicle. Never mind, get out." And then all for the park of the vehicle and walk right back to her. Like, It's so funny because, like, that is certainly like more Mad Max. It's literally, again, ripped right out of Fury Road. But like, I don't know. I like the concept of this movie, but the execution, I said I would get to George Miller, was just not there. I think so much of what is wrong with the Furiosa character is more George Miller than it is Anya Taylor-Joy. I just don't think. Yeah. Okay. It's so weird to say this because I do think they explored the universe a lot more in this movie than they do Fury Road. But it feels like everything surrounding that specific character was so incredible. Good to go back to your like perspective of the last movie. Everything was so perfect it almost took you out of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Everything with Furiosa's character specifically was so conveniently placed, or like, I'm going to do this so you automatically, like, you can make the connection to Fury Road. It was done in such a way that it felt like you could just feel the hands and the puppeteering going on.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like for a character like Furiosa, and I'm not a screenwriter, I'm not a director, I feel like you got to be a little bit more rough around the edges with something like that. Like, it can't be so like pristine and obvious. And to me, it felt very obvious. Like, all of the bits and nuances of her character weren't bits and nuances. At least not in the way that the movie thought they were bits and nuances.
Yeah, I think I get what you're saying. It's also that, again, is just a that's just an issue with prequels in general.
Sure, yeah, I can't deny that. Like, I mean, I would be curious to talk to someone if the Phantom Menace was viewed differently. I'd be curious to see what people thought of Anakin. Like, I can't deny that.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, spoilers for a 19th movie that came out in 1980 something. Like,
wait, what happened to Anakin? I haven't seen the other
So
ones.
he turns into the warlord Darth Vader that takes over the space and holds all the resources and ends up like bombing multiple different planets.
Oh,
also has a child named Luke.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah,
All right.
Luke is the chosen one.
It's not. No. That's a debate for another time, Matt.
I'm trolling. I'm so trolling. But getting back to the fifth angel of the apocalypse, or horseman of the apocalypse, I should say.
Dude. I'm sorry, but that went so hard. That was like...
I don't disagree with that.
Like, I got so amped in that moment. That was so cool.
I mean, I do think that at that point, that's when George Miller is actually locking it in. Like, the writing there. I did like the narrating of this. I think that was a great choice. That's Mad Max. Like, all the old Mad Max movies have narration. Like, that's a big part of them. So what you're telling me is I like Fury Road. I do like Fury Road. I need to go back and watch the original Mad Max films because it sounds like I would like them if I did not already have like the point of reference of Fury Road in my head. So I just need to reorientate that.
Yeah, maybe just watch Road Warrior. Like I say, like
no Tina Turner.
Mad Max is such like a stripped down, just like chase movie that's sort of like pre-apocalypse Mad Max.
Okay,
and then Road Warrior's like basically Road Warrior is what Fury Road would have been if he made it in the 80s, and he did make it, and it was Road Warrior.
Okay,
and then Beyond Thunderdome is like a kids movie in the Mad Max universe.
It's Mad Max Happy Feet.
it's very weird. I watched the other night, and I could have swore I'd seen it before. I'm sure I have, but just like I don't think I've ever watched it just like in one sitting. Yeah, that's a rough movie. I'm pretty sure it's PG too. Like
that's so funny.
Imagine a PG Mad Max movie.
I can't.
That's exactly.
I can't. We haven't really talked about Chris Hemsworth here. I want to be very clear, and same with Anya Taylor-Joy. Before you get into Chris Hemsworth, they're fantastic in this. I don't want things to be taken out of context. This movie is not their fault. A lot of y'all liked it, so I guess it doesn't matter what I'm saying. I just want to be clear that I don't think this movie's on them. Like, I think they were both really, really great. Specifically, Chris Hemsworth. I think this is the best he's ever been. Unfortunately for myself, like I don't see him in this movie specifically, in this setting specifically. I do think he very much feels like a character in that universe. I just don't know if it should have been in this movie.
Okay. I don't know. Like, this is another thing. It's just like old Mad Max. Like, for example, Road Warrior. The villain's name is Lord Humongous, and he wears like a hockey mask and like a leather like underwear, and that's like his outfit.
That's fantastic.
And then like original Mad Max, the guy's name is like Toe Cutter or something. Oh, and it's the same guy who plays Immortan Joe, like plays the villain in the original Mad Max,
okay,
which is pretty interesting. And then you got Tina Turner. So it's just like, I don't know, just they always have these crazy villains. I feel like he fits right in.
Yeah. So again, just for everyone's perspective, like I only know Fury Road, and I think when you're trying to buy into a movie specifically, like tonally things matter, and I just could not buy in like the very stoic Anya Taylor-Joy's Furiosa versus like the very Thor Ragnarok Dementis in a Mad Max universe. Like those things did not mesh well in my opinion. And also part of that, and I think I talked about this briefly, they're not together enough for me to really buy their like dilemma. Like, and I know that sounds crazy, but I think the movie is really hurt by the fact they only really show you the kid or the young version of Furiosa with Dementis. I think that really hurts the movie. I think you probably really needed to see young Anya Taylor-Joy with Dementis for me to buy into that specifically.
I don't know. He was the cause of every terrible thing that's happened in her life. So,
I mean, I get that on paper. Like, don't get me wrong. I get that on paper. Just seeing two very like this again. This is gonna sound like I'm not watching the movie, but I promise you, I am. I've already referenced the CGI computer generated like deep fake they did with Anya Taylor-Joy's face on this kid actor. It worked.
Oh, yeah, that was cool.
But for me, like seeing them on screen, I just didn't see the chemistry there that I think the movie was really trying to sell you.
Okay.
I know that sounds crazy because again, on paper, it makes sense. You can't change Anya Taylor-Joy's like age or her build. But it kind of like the body build thing of Charlize Theron and Anya Taylor-Joy. I just don't buy it in the way the movie's trying to sell it. Does that make sense?
All right. I don't know. Like I
don't feel like I'm overly critical.
I just really like that. Like their whole thing is really good to me.
Yeah, I'm not denying the on paper version of this. I think it's really compelling. I just don't know that I bought it visually. That's my biggest problem. And I think a lot of these problems that I'm having with this movie stem from directing.
Okay. Like, what do you... I'm trying to, like, figure out what you mean exactly.
Like, in terms of, like, what the problems are? Or how I think they stem from directing?
Like, why you're not just, like, buying into it, I guess? Like, they're sort of...
Visually, it just doesn't work. Like, again, like, we only really see Chris Hemsworth with the young actress, who's fantastic. I think her name's Alila Brown. She's really great. But, like, there's a very obvious disconnect between her and Anya Taylor-Joy, whether that be age, appearances. I just didn't buy it visually. Like, when you see Anya Taylor-Joy meet Chris Hemsworth for the first time. That's what I saw. I didn't see Dementis and Furiosa reconnecting. You see my point?
Yeah. I mean, I think that was pretty intentional, though. Because, like, I mean, he's not supposed to recognize her or anything because she's a basically completely different person now.
Sure. Maybe that also just did not work. I don't know. Like, there's something about that entire thing. And again, guess what that stems from? A choice that a director made. Like, I just don't know that all of those things equated to a thing that was like, their dynamic was not believable to me, just point blank. I wish that were different. I think it's not to the fault of them, because I think they're fantastic. It only leaves one other option. And to me, the story just didn't sell it.
I mean, I get what you're saying. I get it's like the majority of this relationship and the building of it occurred whenever she was younger, and the other actress, obviously.
So to me, this sounds like a pace.
I get what you're saying, but I don't like, it doesn't bother me like it's bothering you, but I feel like I'd be lying if I said that hasn't been an issue for me in, like, some other movie in the past if I went back and looked into it. So I'm not, like, faulting you for that take at all.
I think that's part of the reason I think, like, some of the parts of this movie don't work. I think it should have been just separate things. Mm-hmm. It's because it's very noticeable, has issues with the pacing and how characters interact and meet, and like that whole dynamic is really shifted, like very starkly so. Like, I'm just supposed to immediately, like, I'm thinking Chris Hemsworth probably has a massive attachment to this child because of his storyline in the movie, right? Yeah. And then he just suddenly does not recognize her, which is a whole other thing, right? Like, the whole rictus, right? Tried to do some very inappropriate things to a child, mm-hmm. and then suddenly does not recognize her 3 days later. Like, the movie doesn't do a great... Because you're telling me... Here's my thing. You're probably looking at me like, Matt, 3 days later. No, it was not. In the
character, though.
In the movie universe, it's not.
Yeah, it was the other brother.
No, Rictus is looking at her as like, I know who you are. Like, I recognize you. What do I recognize you from?
Rictus is the one. Oh. Okay. No, I know what you're talking about now. Yeah.
I feel like for us to, like, the movie's like pulling a very tight tension between, they recognize, like, she's very recognizable to, who is that person? I've never seen that person before. And I don't know that tension really sells.
Okay. I think aside from, like, the one moment of the, where he uses the symbolism of just, like, the tree growing or whatever to show that time has passed.
Sure.
There are a few problems with, like, understanding, like, the passage of time in this movie. And I think that, like, the reason they don't break it, I mean, that it's just a thing from a bunch of other movies too, where it's just like, I should know, like, do I know you? And it's someone who, like,
But let me challenge this belief for a
they
second.
had, and then they escaped, and so, like, that's happened in like dozens of movies before.
Sure, let me challenge you this belief before. Where did she go for all of those years until she turned into Anya Taylor-Joy? You see what I'm saying? Like, those years still exist in that world.
Mm-hmm. But she cut her hair, Matt. She cut her hair.
No, did she live underground with the people who like had maggots on people? Like, I just like those things just do not work for me. Like, very noticeably do not work. And I just couldn't help but think of those things while watching this movie.
Yeah. She just Mulan'd it.
I mean, I guess she did, technically. Just straight up Shania Twain that thing. I don't know, man. I don't want it lost that I think this movie's bad. I don't think it's bad. I just like the same way you felt about people like talking about Fury Road. I'm like, what movie are you got? Like, I'm sitting here watching Letterboxd 5 stars, 4.5 stars, 5 stars. Oh my God, this is better than Fury Road 5. I'm like, dude, what the heck?
This movie's got like this movie's like, it's getting that kind of reaction, really?
Yes.
I didn't notice that.
I'm like,
I didn't realize that.
Like, what movie are you guys watching? Like, I am puzzled.
Huh. Interesting. I didn't realize, like, I kind of honestly felt like I might have been in the minority on that one.
No. The average rating on this is, let me pull it up right here. It's high, brother. It is high. It's got a average rating of 4. Yeah.
On here?
Yeah. Average rating of 4. 37%
really didn't even notice.
23% 4.5. 13% is 5.
Wow.
I just think it's okay. I don't think it's like the sins this movie commits aren't like extremely bad. Like, they're not unforgivable by any, like, I mean, you've said it already. Like, this has happened in other movies. Like, and it's so like, it's such not a problem that you don't think about it. Like, but those same movies, I guarantee if we were to watch them, like, yeah, that's a solid 3 out of 5. That's a solid 3.5 out of 5. Like, you see my point? Like, it's just okay. Like, there's nothing wrong with it. It's not unforgivable. It's actually a decent, like, addition to the world, but that's all it is. Like, it's a movie that exists because IP exists. And that's inherently where my problem becomes. It's a bigger issue than it is the movie. It's like, why are we just go back to the 10 Cloverfield Lane thing? Like, if The Bunker is a good movie, The Bunker is a good movie. At what point are we just making movies to sell tickets to, like, and that's a whole other conversation because this movie only made like $28 million opening weekend.
The last one didn't do well either, so I don't think it's really.
That's fair. I mean, that's certainly fair. I just think this one's a little bit more like stated in the sense that, like, we talked about this last week. Charlize Theron, I don't think was pulling in the same way that Tom Hardy was pulling. I don't think Tom Hardy's pulling in the same way at that time. Anya Taylor-Joy and Chris Hemsworth should be pulling, but I think Anya Taylor-Joy should be pulling right now.
Mm-hmm.
And also, we live in a world where Fury Road does exist. That's the difference, right? In my mind, like, Fury Road, I kind of get it. It's a sequel to a movie that was made in the 80s. Like, what's the audience for that? But then Fury Road comes out in 2015, right? Fury Road is highly regarded. This movie, I remember us talking about this, like, they announced Furiosa, I'm like, oh my gosh, like, this is kind of exciting. Like, I don't like, hopefully it's good, but it's kind of exciting. I can't wait to see it. I just feel like this movie should have made at least a little bit more than that one at minimum. You see my point? Like, this has been like, this movie had the momentum and advantage of being reintroduced to this audience that would have seen it today. Whereas the previous movie had like 30 years 25, 30 years in between it. Like I can't do math on the spot like that, but like
30, yeah.
you see my point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's weird. I think as you surely know, like just the whole talk about movies are dying and like people pointing to this movie over that. It's just like Fury Road didn't do all that well.
Yeah, I think that's a fair like assessment for sure.
And it's what, like 10 years near about since then, and it's a prequel to that movie. Like there's so many things stacked against this movie. Like I don't know why people expected it to do super well. Like, and it's rated R, isn't it? Probably, I would guess.
I can check for you.
Just like
it is.
There's just so many things. I don't know, and like I don't really know many people who like Mad Max, like out in the real world, that aren't just like film fan people. I don't know.
8 out of 10, by the way, on IMDb. I think it's set down at 90% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
So I'm in the vast minority. Yeah, I can't say this enough. I do think it's a good movie. I don't know how much to read into my disappointment in the movie, because like there is a level of this, right? Like, and we've talked about this briefly before. Like, what's the difference between going into a movie with expectations and having expectations? Like, how much of that is on the viewer?
Mm-hmm.
I don't feel like I crossed that line. I think there is room to have disappointment in like knowing what to expect going into a movie. And I don't know that I was like, I don't know that I completely got what I was expecting. Like, I'm pretty sure of that.
All right. Oh gosh, I had something and I just lost it. Yeah, I just don't. I don't really know if I necessarily had expectations. Is the thing.
Sure.
I'm super surprised to hear that so many people like it. Honestly, I like while I was watching it, I was like, this is definitely going to be getting reactions like the Hobbit movies or like the Star Wars prequels and stuff, because it's like this big beloved IP, and it's like doing the prequel thing, and it's even got some of just like the dodgy, like overly ambitious use of visual effects and stuff. Mm. And I was like, and it looks glossier than Fury Road did in some respects. So I was like, man, people are probably going to hate this movie, but I really like it. So like, I'm shocked to hear that so many people like this movie.
Here's some reviews from my friends on Letterboxd. 4.5 stars. The Feminine and the Furious. 4.5 stars. A movie that makes you feel like you can run through a brick wall. Heavy metal cinema has all of the fire and brimstone of Fury Road, but this time it's baked into a coming of age revenge epic. Yeah. 4 stars. Chris Hemsworth in this is the equivalent of shooting from half court every single time and somehow winning the basketball game. Incredible stuff. Like, that's just a couple.
Huh.
4.5 stars. Chris Hemsworth in a cape. Like,
he's been doing that for over a decade now.
Boy, do I have a movie trilogy for you.
I've got 8 different movies for you to get into.
No, I'm just ultimately jealous, I think. I'll go see this again in the theater. I'm hoping it works better a second time. Yeah, I'm really puzzled by it, because I do think it's a good, like, I can't complain about the movie. I can't say that enough. And you were like, Matt, you complained for an hour. I don't think I did. Like, I think there's a difference in having an issue with a movie and being very like self-aware, knowing that like your issue is inside of a vacuum. If that makes sense. And dude, I'm just ultimately disappointed and jealous.
It is a very different movie from Fury Road.
Yes.
It's like, I don't know if you're super big into just like old like classic epics and stuff like that, like a Ben-Hur or like something like that. This is just very much in line with that sort of filmmaking from back then. Like it's so cool to me because it's like that put into like
I can see
the
that,
Mad Max canvas. Like it's so cool to me. I don't know. Like I see myself revisiting this much more in the future, but hopefully, like I said after watching it, like it made me want to watch Fury Road just because it fixes a lot of my issues with that movie.
No, I said this. Like I do think it is an interesting like mythological like epic. I mean, that's what Monkey Man. That's the reason Monkey Man did work for me. It's because like I was super interested in like the mythology of it and the fable of it all. I just think this movie is not like this movie has the disadvantage of being in a pre-existing universe. And again, maybe if my reference to the universe was not one of the best movies ever made, maybe that's part of the problem. And for some reason, George Miller decided to do something entirely different for this one versus what succeeded with that one. Maybe my perspective was a little bit different. Maybe if I did see Road Warrior as opposed to seeing this like Fury Road, maybe my perspective was a little bit different. But unfortunately for myself, my introduction was Fury Road, and this is just not that. It's not even close to that. In fact, it just feels like it took the elements of Fury Road and it's like, hey, let's insert it in this movie.
Yeah, and I see that. I can definitely see like you, like someone who's just seen Fury Road going into this where like it feels like member berries.
Yeah.
Like it feels like, oh, here's this character, and here's this character that you know, and here's this, and like here's this location that was in the last one. But for me, it just didn't. To me, it just felt natural. It just felt like an extension of that story.
Another thing that really bugged me, and this is so incredibly small, Morton Joe and Rictus have not aged at all.
Yeah. Well, Morton Joe, that's just because they had to recast him.
Sure. No, I get that. Like that makes sense to me. But the Rictus of it all does not make sense. The dude is the same age that he was when Anya Taylor-Joy was a child to where she is as Charlize Theron.
Dude, I love it. I love that.
What is in Mom's Milk?
And then the one guy, what's the guy's name? The organ something. The guy who delivers the babies, who he gets from that guy. It's just played by the same guy from Fury Road. Like, I love it. I love it so much. Man, you don't understand. Like, these movies.
Dude, I didn't realize that Morton Joe was two characters in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
I realized that today.
And then just like gosh, he does this in these movies where he just reuses actors, but this is the first time. Okay, so like in the old movies, he would like reuse the same actors from movie to movie, but they would be playing different characters in the movies. But this is like the first time he's just because these movies have never been super connected before. They're like basically just like they feel like fables, like stories that don't connect at all. And this is the first time he's done it. So like him doing that from Fury Road to this, like 10 years later, having characters play versions of themselves from like 20 years ago is so funny to me. And I really like it though.
Was one question, was William H. Macy not available to play the guy who was talking to
dude, the moment he showed up and I realized what they were doing with that character, I was like, this is just William H. Macy. And like from King of the Planet of the Apes. And then later I was like, this is just that if it was done better, like in my opinion.
No, that I immediately thought, I'm like, that's like, is this supposed to be like Reverend Mother? Like, what's going on here? And then he spoke, and I'm like, wait a second, this is William H. Macy.
When he like tells her, like, become useful to him and he'll take care of you, I was like,
Yeah.
these movies coming out so close together.
Very White House down coded, like unexpectedly. Anywho, any final words on this thing before we get out of here?
Oh, there was something. What was I going to say? Oh, I was just, so like, I kind of mentioned, like, these movies are, they're so, like fans of these movies have really related to them to, like, stories being told around a campfire.
Okay.
About this guy named Max who
Sure.
just, like, happens to show up.
Okay,
like,
now I could see how this works.
mhm.
That tracks with what this movie is.
Yeah. Okay. Exactly. And so, like, because everybody's like, there's no continuity, like, some of these things don't make sense, like, in a timeline sense.
Sure.
And I was just like, but then the fans have been like, well, it's kind of like just stories told around a campfire, just like of this character, like, wandering around. And then
The Road Warrior.
the end of
Okay.
this
Oh my
movie-
God.
the end of this movie just blatantly says it, like in the narration, where he's just
Yeah.
like, so some people say this happened, some people say this happened, and then, but she told me what really happened. Then, like, it shows you what happened. I love that moment. It's so good to me.
Dude, you
As
just
a
made
fan
the
of this
Daniel Kaluuya of Sicario reveal to me. Like, what the heck? No. You know what I'm talking about, right? You ever watched Sicario and then watch Daniel Kaluuya? That dude knows what's going on. Every single frame of that movie.
Oh yeah.
You just changed the movie for me. Like, I didn't know that, but like now that like the title makes sense, the title of Mad Max Road Warrior makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Why didn't you mention this, an hour and 10 minutes ago?
No, dude, it's great. Like, I don't know. That's what's something that's just so cool about this franchise, and for him to directly acknowledge it in this movie, I just really appreciated that.
Dude, I'm going to watch this again this week. What the heck? Now I'm just thinking about it. Like, probably sound like an absolute idiot.
So just something else. The moment when they show Max.
I'm glad you said this, because this is another like point of conflict between Brianna and I. I'm like, did they not just randomly show Mad Max in this same exact area in the same exact framing as they did at the very intro of Fury Road? She's like, that wasn't him. I'm like, I'm pretty positive it was.
I mean, it was like his car. Like, yeah, it was him. But it's weird because like there's an immediate cut to her being back at the Citadel, like underground there. So like,
do you want to talk about this? Because this pissed me off.
Like, what happened there?
And then
she's getting like dragged and stuff. Like,
this made me mad because it doesn't make sense with the Fury Road of it all. And maybe going back to the campfire thing, maybe that's where, maybe William H. Macy got it all wrong. I don't know. But because this happens, like, so the way this movie ends is it feels like it's trying to tell you it's 5 minutes before. But like, as we've already stated, like, passage of time in this movie is not consistent. But the moment you see that perfect framing of what it was in Fury Road, because it's very intentional, it's very obvious that's what he was trying to insinuate. It's when she, like you said, it's when she was captured and walking back. So like, timeline wise, it doesn't line up at all.
Wait, I see what you're trying to say.
Because what I would, in my mind, what I would have done instead would have been have her go in to where the tree is, peek the peach, cut to the scene where she's entering the vault, right? Show her from the back, not show her face, and then cut to the image of Mad Max on the mountain.
Okay, I think I see what you're saying. I didn't get that. I didn't get that he was saying that this was the moment, like, from the opening of Mad Max where he was out there. Like, because, I mean, you have to point out even more, in the beginning of Mad Max, he has the super long hair, and then whenever they show him in that scene, he's got the short hair.
It's really confusing.
So I think no, he's just framing it that way. So like, people are like, "Oh, that's Max." Like it's not. I don't think it's supposed to be like the shot from.
Well, you see how I could see it as that way, right?
Yeah,
because it's literally
but
the
even
shot.
that, like,
it's literally the shot, like from the poster.
And then, like in this, like the car is facing towards the camera, the car is facing away from the camera.
That's it. I noticed that too.
It's I don't know. I just think it's trying. I think it was just a way of him to be like, to not have to bring back that actor.
Sure.
To have it be like,
hey,
okay,
I wouldn't
Max
close expectations
there,
on that.
not,
to quote George Miller.
Well, I mean, I don't think he'd bring Tom Hardy back either.
I don't think so.
From what I hear, how that movie went, how the filming of that went. But just I don't know. I just think he did it as a visual way of just showing to the audience without having to show like an actor's face or to just like have a actual scene.
Yes. I think that's fair, but I also think it's visually confusing. I think it's too similar of a shot. I don't know what else to say. Like, I don't know what he could have done as opposed to doing that. I just think, like, dude literally set it looks like he set him up on the same mountain and he just changed the orientation of the car. Like, you see what I'm saying? Like, it's too similar. Yeah. Like, I think there's another way you could probably visually do that without literally copying the shot from the poster of Fury Road. And I think when you put it in like the context of what's going on around it, it really doesn't make sense. You see what I'm saying? Again, opinions are opinions. Subjective, like there's a subjective nature to this. I get that, but I can tell you for me specifically, that's immediately what I thought of.
Okay.
I know that's crazy.
Yeah. I just think it was, he just felt like it was the easiest way to, because he wanted to show that Max was out there, but just like show it to the audience and be like, it like they would immediately pick up on that that's who that was and what he was trying to do.
If that's the case, I still think my idea is better. Like the idea that you see, I'm not biased at all.
I'm just kidding, man.
Hear me out. Like the idea that when you cut to Anya Taylor-Joy picking that peach, burying Hemsworth under that tree, her going to the vault, and then you cut to that as the last image. I think that's so much more powerful than what they actually did, and it serves both purposes. It's the old two birds, one stone.
Hmm. Yeah, but then he could just intercut a shot from Fury Road like that. Nah.
I mean, dude, he did it already. Like, I don't know. He literally did it already. Yeah, it didn't work for me. Like point blank, unfortunately.
You wanted her to be go in there into the room and then have Max drive up the mountain, get out of the car, and be like, I hope a lizard pops up so I can eat it.
Just intersect the beginning of the movie. just do the 4 hour. I mean, do the 6 hour cut of both this movie and that movie combined. Just keep the camera rolling. See what happens.
You wanted CG Tom Hardy's face on him. You wanted him
Absolutely.
to say hope whenever he saw that lizard come up.
Where was Nux at during all of this? That's what I need to know.
Yeah, where was he?
Where's Nicholas Hoult? No, like, yeah, I'm not going to say the same thing over and over again. He was obviously trying to set up like this is 5 minutes before that event. And so in my mind, like the idea of like using the same exact imagery that you used in the previous movie it makes more sense in my brain to do it. If you're doing it 5 minutes before, utilize it as the last shot. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, but that was even before there was the giant war between the three.
I know. That's the reason it doesn't make sense.
No, it's just, I don't know. I mean, it's just like, that's like saying, why did they put a shot of Han Solo next to the Millennium Falcon? He stands next to Millennium Falcon in that other movie too. Like, it's just him next to his car. Like, that's just his thing.
No, I get it. It's just the... No, never mind. I'm not going to torture the people listening. I have very, 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 very... if there's one thing that I'm passionate about, it's this part of the movie. Anywho, I haven't talked to you about this. The Acolyte comes out on June 4th. There's nothing that comes out this week aside from Bad Boys, which I'm excited for. I don't know if you're if you're going to see that, but I got to thinking. There's one movie we constantly tease that we never talk about. It's today. It is next week that day. Do we talk Star Wars: The Last Jedi and set the narrative right?
The Last Jedi. Oh my gosh. I've been wanting an excuse to watch this movie again.
It's time to set the narrative right. I'm
absolutely down for this.
So I got to think, do we want to do that, or do we just want to talk just Star Wars all over the entirety of the pod? I'm down either way. It's up to you.
I think Conversation of the Last Jedi will lead into probably the current state of things a bit. So I think it'll kind of go hand in hand, but I think we should frame it through Last Jedi.
I think you're right. I think The Last Jedi is topical too, in the sense that like a lot of people hate it and they're wrong. And then too, to the Acolyte, because it's completely separated from the name Anakin Luke Skywalker. Yeah. And I think that's topical. And so we will tease that for now. Watch The Last Jedi. It's actually a good movie. Go ahead.
No, this is just exciting to me.
It's actually a good movie. I have so many thoughts, and I cannot wait to get the takes off. And any last words before we hop out of here?
No, I think we did a pretty solid autopsy on this one, Matt.
You know who did do a good autopsy?
I found it to be still alive, and you think it's dead, so... Maybe we'll bring in another opinion or something.
Listen,
I
could only hope to be 80 years old and put something together like this. Let me be abundantly clear.
Him saying he wants to make another one, I'm like, how? I couldn't.
Dude, it's going to take you 9 years to get it out. Like, what are we doing? We're wasting time making this statement.
And be like, it's too hot. I gotta. It's Macy.
We're just being robbed of Happy Feet 3. That's what we need.
That's right. Happy Feet 3 and what was
Babe
the Genie
2.
movie
Babe
with
3.
It's the Genie movie he did with Idris Elba.
The Tilda Swinton joint. I don't know what the name of that movie was.
Never watched that. He's in Death Stranding too, though, so I'm excited about that. I don't know if we got any big Death Stranding fans in our.
No, since Guy Ritchie is now just phoning it in every single movie, and they're clearly not going to make another Aladdin movie. Just give George Miller the keys to Aladdin, and then bring Tilda Swinton and Idris Elba back, and just have fun. That's what I need.
No, we need to we gotta do the thing everybody keeps doing. So we get him, and then we get Ryan Gosling and Russell Crowe.
And then you cast all three of them in the new Knives Out movie. Have you heard about this? The newest casting?
Kaylee Spaney.
And Josh O'Connor from Challengers. He's the best part of that movie.
Yeah, that guy.
Fantastic in that movie. I cannot wait.
The rumors?
Huh?
The rumored castings?
So I think they're confirmed. I think I just saw that they were confirmed before we hopped on here.
No, I mean the two.
Tom Hardy and Lindsay Lohan. At the same
time. Yeah.
That is a fantastic cast.
All right.
my body. Speaking of Ryan Johnson, my man cooks when he makes things.
What we do is we take Ryan Johnson and Knives Out 3. We cast Daisy Ridley, Adam Driver,
John
we set it in
Boyega.
space, and Broom Boy. We set it in space. Who knows what could happen? You
Call
know?
it Skywalker's
we might-
glass case.
Yeah, we might finally get a third part of that trilogy that comes out. That'd be great.
Speaking of Skywalker and Star Wars, dude, did you watch the 4-hour Star Cruiser thing?
Like Star Cruiser. Yeah. Oh, so good. So
Jenny
good.
Nicholson is incredible. I've been watching
She
her since
killed
like Script Doctor, Batman v Superman days when she's like bagging on Henry Cavill. God bless his soul.
she's
He's
great.
gotten better.
He has.
Anywho, we will quit
He's getting
rambling
better stuff.
and get the heck out of here. Yeah, we'll do The Last Jedi next week. Watch it. It's actually a good movie. Everyone else is wrong. If they don't say it's 5 stars. All right, bye.
Oh, I guess I'm wrong.